I'm sure dragging my chair across the floor was a great way to start the beginning of this video. I have been feeling really inspired to do videos on this channel just in the past few days. It's probably because, as I explained last night in my previous video, I just feel more relaxed. I'm at my parents' house in Massachusetts, and currently I'm at the house by myself. And this is like the longest stretch of time I've gone in 2.5 weeks of being alone. And I feel like whenever I'm alone, and this is probably true for everybody, but when you can really slow down, be by yourself with your thoughts and do whatever you want, it just really helps you get more in touch with yourself, and what you want, what's going well, what's not going well, all those things. Oh, first and foremost, before I have a lot to talk about, I want to make sure that you know that I've been really, really serious about my newsletter lately. And one of the elements of my regular newsletter is my giveaways. So in the link down below, there is a link to my website where you can enter a giveaway. And so depending on when you watch this, the giveaway will range from whatever is available. Right now is the time of recording. There is a giveaway for some vegan apparel, which is pretty cool. So you can enter to win that. And the neat thing is every time you enter to win, you'll automatically be notified about the next giveaway. So if you don't win the current giveaway, your chances of winning a giveaway are fairly good, especially right now, because the giveaway pool has not been, the entrance has not been extremely strong since it's like a newer thing that I've been doing. And so, yeah, I really think that you should do it. And then if you're not interested in giveaways, I really encourage you to sign up for my newsletter, which you can also do in the description field or through the description field, because just like it's a great way to see everything that's happening and the things that are important to me. And I'm really just trying to curate some great content for you. So with that said, I talked about this a bunch last night, so it's kind of like a continuation if you haven't seen the previous video. But in summary, I've really been fascinated by this whole hearing with the U.S. Senate. And as I said yesterday, I haven't really been that into politics, but this is just fascinating to me and very important, as my father keeps reminding me how important this hearing is and the upcoming election and all of that. And so I've just been really paying close attention and trying to understand it. And this is coming from a perspective of somebody that's not really been paying much attention to the government. So I feel like I just have a lot of ignorance. Like I'm really aware of all my ignorance around certain things. It's like the person I knew the most on the Senate is Cory Booker, simply because he's vegan, or at least he was at one point. So it's like I recognized him and I was like, oh, I know who that is, but I don't, and then there's just not, I don't really know that much, and politics has been something that hasn't really ever appealed to me a lot, which seems strange given my passion for environmental issues and activism in my own way. But I just, like, when I was in school, it didn't appeal to me. And I think like a lot of the times what we're interested in, classes we're taking in elementary school and all the different stages of our education, college, all that stuff, I think I just started to define myself as somebody who just didn't care that much about politics. But as I get older and things change a lot in the US, it starts to become more and more important. And I think watching this hearing has really inspired me to start paying more attention. And as I said yesterday, I do read snippets of the news every day. I hear it in conversations, but it's just like, I think I'm really understanding now by watching this hearing that I had such a limited idea of what was going on and how things worked, because reading a paragraph summary of the news is so different than really like watching something like this. And that's probably why I have been so into it. The other thing that's been incredibly interesting, and the big reason I wanted to make this video and kind of the theme of this, is that I started watching this show on Showtime called The Circus, and it's in its third season. I don't think I'd ever heard of it before. Again, like, it's just amazing how much stuff goes on in the world that you don't even know about until you care about something, and then suddenly your eyes are completely open to something new. And so I just started watching the show. You can kind of see it behind me on the television. And I'm just amazed at the behavior of people. And that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I've had from watching everything going on with Judge Kavanaugh, is that the aggression that it's brought out in people, whether it's citizens like myself or other people in the government, just the overall behavior. And, you know, it's very reminiscent of everything that's been happening with Trump. And it's no secret that I'm very liberal. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like where I live and my diet and lifestyle, you know, they are all very liberal things. My entire life has been very liberal. But that doesn't mean, I mean, I guess like I could be voting Republican, but I'll just be straightforward in that I've aligned with being a Democrat. And I don't really know that many Republicans. I have like a very few people in my life have I crossed paths with that are Republicans. And I honestly don't have a judgment about them because I see each person as individuals. There are definitely people in my family, actually, I should say that, I should correct myself. Some of my family members, like I think I have at least a few cousins that are Republican and aunts or uncles. And that's fine. It's just like politics is not something that I discuss very much. And I don't believe in judging somebody just because of their political views. Just as I don't believe in judging somebody based on their diet. I don't really believe in judging anyone, period. I try my best not to. I've talked about before how, you know, judgments are a large part of our culture. And I think a lot of us just have these knee-jerk reactions to judge others. So I can't say that I don't judge anybody, but I really try not to because, for instance, I dated a Republican a few years ago, and it was really fascinating because I cared very deeply for him. He cared deeply for me, but we had such different viewpoints on the world. And it was just so fascinating that our viewpoints differed so much, but we could still really care about each other. And there were dynamics of a relationship that worked really well, despite a lot of our opposing views. So that's what I mean. And, you know, there are plenty of people in my life that I love and care for that aren't vegetarian or vegan, you know? And so it's not about like this right or wrong and this side versus that side. But the big thing that I want to talk about today is that by watching all of this going on in the government right now with this hearing, you see how much our government is set up between right and wrong, good versus bad, this side versus that side. And I think it really is shedding light to me on this ongoing question that I've had about why people treat each other in the ways that they do. And all the criticism online, you know, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm very sensitive to criticism. And I often feel just so confused, you know, when people just point out things about me that are irrelevant to what I'm talking about, and they criticize me. And if I slip up and say something that they don't think is right, they want to criticize it, and people want to give you thumbs down. And people, you know, it's just like this ongoing thing on YouTube that I've been so sensitive to for almost 10 years now that I've been creating content. And I'm also sensitive to watching people be critical of others online. You know, it's just astounding to me when I go through the comment sections of YouTube videos or anything. And, you know, you would think that after all these years of seeing that you would grow a thick skin, but for me, I haven't. It's gotten thicker, I suppose, but it's not like I feel completely immune to watching how cruel people are to one another. You know, we see bullying as an ongoing issue, and we have the Me Too movement right now, and you just turn on the news any given day and there's some crazy crime. There's somebody that's killing somebody or raping somebody or, whatever else it is. It's like nonstop. And sometimes you just feel like it rolls off your back, and sometimes, maybe depending on the person and the day, you might just be like, this is completely horrible. And I think for so much of my life, I've just felt so confused as to why human beings are so cruel to one another, and I'm fascinated by that and the psychology of it all. But anyways, the big point that I wanted to make was that by watching everything that's been coming out with this whole hearing and this whole will he or won't he end up be confirmed. Judge Kavanaugh, is it Kavanaugh? Yeah. I feel like I'm going to keep screwing up his name, even though I've heard it so much over the past few days. I just see how it's created this split in our country. And I'm sure people around the world are part of this conversation as well. And you just see the behavior. And I imagine from the outside, like outside of this country, people must be like, what is going on in America? Like we had the intense election a few years ago and now this, and you just see how people are so incredibly critical and judgmental. The part in the TV show, The Circus, that I just paused was right. And what made me just feel like I had to record a video right away was this woman. The show The Circus on Showtime goes to this Trump meeting or something. It's like supporters of Trump in Florida. And they just go through and they're interviewing people and they're asking them about Judge Kavanaugh and all that stuff. And this one woman starts going on and on about how Dr. Ford, who's accusing Kavanaugh of sexually assaulting her when they were teenagers. And she's like, well, Doc, of course, she must be lying about it because she's a liberal and she lives in California. And she went on and on and on. And I'm like, she might as well be talking about me. So I'm sorry, am I not credible because I live in California and I consider myself to be liberal? Does that take away my credibility? But some people think so. They really do. And I don't know what the percentage is of people that think that, but of course, it starts to make sense why there's got to be some people that come across my channel and automatically give me a thumbs down because I have the word vegan in my title, or because I'm a woman, or because I live in California. It's like these people that come on and make all these judgments about where you live and how old you are and what gender you are and what your diet is and all that. And so I don't want people thinking of me that way or treating me a certain way because of those things. So it's just an ongoing reminder to not make judgments about other people based on where they live or what side of the government they're on or their family, like all of these things that come up. And I think it's so important to raise the awareness around that, because a lot of these ideas are instilled upon us through our childhood that we may not even realize it. I've talked a lot about my mother and how I've had a lot of challenges with her in my life. And one of the hardest things for me growing up that I never felt right about was a lot of my mother's judgments about other people. And I have all these memories of disagreeing with her, whether I was silently disagreeing or verbally disagreeing. But it's very possible that a lot of her perspectives got ingrained in me, right? Like when we're little kids and we're hearing our parents talk a certain way over and over and over again. And we grow up in a certain part of the world and we have experiences around people that are similar to us. And then those kids reiterate the things their parents say. And if their parents agree with your parents, then it just it builds upon itself, where you start to have all these judgments about other people. And so there's part of me that has so much compassion for people, even if they're judgmental, because maybe they don't even realize it. Like that previous boyfriend of mine that I mentioned that was Republican, one of the things that was most fascinating to me about him was that it really felt like his viewpoints were just based on his childhood and what his parents thought. It was about the religion that he had, and it was about the friends he had, and his family members, and all this stuff. A lot of his beliefs around the world felt so strongly centered around what everybody else around him was saying. And so I was never quite sure, as his girlfriend, was he saying these things because he really believed them deep down to the core, or because he was just perpetuating the things that were around him. And I don't know. I don't know the answer about him, and I don't know the answer about a lot of people. And I'm also limited by my own biases. I'm limited by my own experiences and my education and the own bubble of the world that I live in. Again, as I said, being raised in a liberal family, raised in a liberal town, choosing to go to college at a liberal college in a liberal city, and moving to a liberal part of the country. I'm like Democrats and liberal people all around me all the time. Of course, that I create my own biases and viewpoints, right? And there's a lot about the Republican and conservative perspectives that I just don't understand. Just like I wouldn't understand a foreign language that I haven't learned to speak or read or listen to. So there's also that reality of that each of us is limited in our viewpoints. And I think that is one of the most important things for us as human beings. In addition to having compassion for others, even if we don't understand them, doing our best not to judge people that we don't agree with, but also knowing that we have so many limitations. And just because we think something, that doesn't mean that it's right. Just because other people agree with us doesn't mean that we're collectively right. So many things are positioned as right, and we later realize that they're not true. You look back in history and you see so many things that people believed and did, and they thought they were okay. And then 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 years later, 1,000 years later, whatever it has been, we look back on it and we think, wow, I can't believe humans used to think that way. I can't believe our ancestors lived that way. And so if we can have that perspective over previous generations, I think having that awareness about ourselves now is so important. There's no right or wrong. We're mortals. And I think the more that I've lived my life knowing that I don't know it all and being unattached to my perspective and really letting my guiding force be my heart, but knowing that what feels like my heart is also biased, right? Because like that woman that I just saw on this TV show who's basically saying that Dr. Ford is lying because of where she lives and how she thinks and what governmental side she's on. All those prejudices that woman has for Dr. Ford, she may really feel like in her heart that her viewpoint is correct. So who knows? We can try to follow our intuition, but that doesn't mean that our intuition is right. It just means that that's right for us, or that's what's comfortable for us. But having an open mind and an open heart, to me, feels like the best way to proceed. And this may sound judgmental, but the one big thing that I disagree with, and the thing that I think really turns me off about a lot of the actions of Republican and conservative people, especially, again, if you watch this hearing at all with Judge Kavanaugh, Kavanaugh, he was so angry and he said some really judgmental things about Democrats. And I didn't react to it simply because I associate as a Democrat, but mainly because I just was shocked at some of his anger and his outbursts and his defensiveness. And what does that say about him? I actually haven't watched Dr. Ford's testimony yet, and I've just seen like bits and pieces and heard little things here and there. So I don't even know fully how I feel about her statements. But for what I did hear from a lot of the summaries, it was that she was calmer and, yes, emotional as well, but in a gentler way. And that's what I personally align with. I align with being gentle. I don't align with outrage. Even when I believe strongly in something, even when I want to stand up for something and participate in activism, my personal comfort level and the place that I want to operate from is from a place of being gentle and peaceful, compassionate, open-minded, open-hearted. That feels right to me. And I'm uncomfortable with people who want to blame and want to shout and scream and point fingers and judge. That doesn't settle well with me, because I don't think that helps us get closer to the end goal, when ultimately we have the Supreme Court for justice. And I don't know. I think it's really toyed with what my idea of justice is. And I think I'm amongst many people who have lost a lot of trust in the system, faith in it, and also just seeing the side of humanity and being like, of course, no wonder people can get on YouTube and Instagram and blogs and wherever else online and write cruel things and judgmental things. Of course, if you turn on the TV and you see a TV show or the news or a big event like we're having right now in the US, when you turn that on and you see people shouting at each other, blaming each other, ridiculing, judging, pointing fingers, all those things, when you see adults doing that, whether you're their age, older or younger, it sets the standard for that type of behavior. It makes that behavior okay. So no wonder we treat each other that way. And I don't know if it's like a devised plan. Are we really trying to divide the nation? The nation does feel very divided at times. I think the world can feel divided. It's incredibly unsettling to me, because I think the thing that I'm drawn so much to is, like I said, peace. This does not feel peaceful. And it's a bit heartbreaking. I went on Twitter today because I was trying to keep up with all the news and the developments with the hearing. And I just innocently, I don't use Twitter I don't really read through Twitter streams that often. So this might sound really ignorant, but I just typed Kavanaugh into the Twitter search to see, I was trying to find a summary of the minute by minute updates on this, right? And instead of finding that, what I found was just a ton of people attacking Democrats and saying horrible things about women and disregarding the Me Too movement and calling women liars or calling Dr. Ford a liar. And then there was another point where I was listening to one of the Democratic senators speak, and I was so moved by her. And I thought, I don't know, is she the only woman? Or maybe there's only 2 women on the Senate. I don't know. Again, I don't know that much about this. So this is a lot new to me. But one of the women was speaking, and I just in awe of everything she said, and I felt so in alignment with it. And then I got Twitter, you just have tweet after tweet after tweet of people just tearing her down and like saying incredibly cruel things about her. And I thought, wow, I can't understand this. I can't relate to this. And I feel really sad because I respectfully watch the Republicans, and no, I don't agree with their perspectives or all of their perspectives, but I can be respectful of them. I don't feel the need to tear them down. I don't feel the need to criticize them. I can do that internally if I want, but why would I need to get on Twitter or Facebook or wherever else and go on a whole rant about it? What I did do instead is I shared some tweets that I aligned with that Cory Booker had tweeted out, because I think Cory Booker is awesome. And I aligned with what he said. I didn't feel the need to comment on it. You will not find any of my words. I just shared to pass on something and to perhaps show my alignment with that. Derek, who's watching live, just said, happier life if you don't follow politics. You know, I would agree with that at some points, but in this time, I feel like it's very important to pay attention. It's important to be aware. I think there's so much ignorance. There are a lot of people that don't vote because they're ignorant of politics, because they say they don't care. I have friends that said that. I can't remember. I don't think it was the presidential election, but I feel like it was another important one. And like, if I can muster up the time, the energy to learn more about politics and to go vote, which takes like not a lot of time, at least where I live in Los Angeles. I have a voting poll that's like 5 minutes. You know, it's 5-minute drive, 5-minute voting process. I'm home in 15 minutes, right? And I know that's not true of the entire country. So I understand that's a privilege that I have. But I mean, I'm speaking more of like the fact that I have a lot of ignorance around politics. There are times in our lives as citizens where it is so vital that we educate ourselves and that we're aware of what's going on and that we take the action necessary, whether it's calling senators or local offices or voting, standing up, going to protest, whatever it is important to you, whatever calls to you, and letting your voice be heard or letting your presence be seen and felt. I think actually one of the speculations today during the hearing, what kind of the conclusion was today, because they were supposed to vote on this today, and it was a little confusing. Like for me, I didn't quite understand everything that was happening, but there was one senator who I guess hadn't made up his mind yet, and they were kind of like waiting on him to decide if he was going to confirm Judge Kavanaugh or not. And he actually said that he wanted the FBI to further investigate because the FBI had, I guess, not completed an investigation. Again, there's so many fuzzy details for me. It's so confusing. But from what my understanding was that they basically didn't reach a conclusion because of this one man. And it actually gives me butterflies to say this out loud, to Derek's point, is that some people speculate that the reason he made that decision to ask for the FBI to do their investigation of this case is because of some protesters who confronted him. I think his name was like Jeff, it starts with an F. Is it Jeff Flake? I don't know if is that right? That might be right. But if you're following along, you'll know who I'm talking about, or you can go look it up. But he actually here, it's on one of my tabs on my computer. Let me make sure I get this right. What's his name? Yeah, Jeff Flake. Oh, I got it right. Okay. I haven't paid attention. So there's speculation that the reason he did that was because of protesters. And nobody knows for sure why he kind of came out with that. Let's see what it says on here. Yeah, there's on CNN. These are the two protesters who may have changed Flake's mind. If you look it up, it said that he disappeared from the hearing room for almost an hour. Nobody's really sure what happened behind closed doors, but there was a live on air moment this morning where he had announced his support for Judge Kavanaugh, and then he was confronted in an elevator by two women who say they are sexual assault survivors. So what if those two women helped sway his opinion? There are a lot of sexual assault survivors out there, and there are a lot of people who are not willing to talk about it. They don't feel comfortable, or they don't feel like it matters, or that whatever their personal choices are, to stay silent. But the people that stand up and say, this happened to me and I don't want it to happen to me again, I don't want it to happen to anyone else, and I want there to be justice, those people can make a huge difference. And their interest in politics, their passion for politics, and their knowledge that we have a voice can change things. And if it's true that those protesters were able to shift his perspective, or at least influence it enough for him to make that huge decision, then that says a lot about our power as human beings. And I think in general, we do not realize how powerful we are. I was thinking about this today. I reflect a lot on my career and a lot of my decisions, all these different things that I do for my work. And sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter. Sometimes I feel like, quote unquote, nobody cares. Why even bother making a video? No, the views aren't high, blah, 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 all these different mentality. But if I can shift something in this world, big or small, through expressing my truth, then that's what really matters. And if I have a passion for something and a fire there, why would I hold it back? But I think that that's a common thing. I think many, many people hold themselves back because they don't feel like they matter. They don't feel like their actions matter, their words matter, their experiences matter. And I think that's also why this particular moment in US history is so fascinating, because we're going to find out a lot about how the government views things like sexual assault. And I also want to say that the decision that's going to be made about this in this particular case with Judge Kavanaugh is that if they decide to confirm him, if he does pass through all these issues despite the accusations, it doesn't necessarily mean that the government doesn't care about women or doesn't care about sexual assault. I mean, the reality is it's a very confusing thing, and there isn't a lot of evidence yet, but we'll see what happens with the FBI investigation, I guess. But there's plenty of cases that go through where somebody is sentenced to something, or something happens, a decision is made, even though deep down you know that, or you feel that it's not the right decision. So I think that's the other thing I've been practicing while watching all of this, is that I'm unattached to the outcome. I would like the outcome to lean in the favor of women and anybody, any victims of sexual assault. But if they can't prove it beyond reasonable doubt, then the justice system says that he should be confirmed. So we also need to trust the justice system, even though it may not feel trustworthy. This is our country. And that's why I don't know if that's coming across quite right. It's a complicated thing, and I think politics tend to be very complicated and very personal. So wherever you stand, you could agree with me or not. You may be a bit confused and unsure about it all. And we just have to remember that our perspectives come a lot from our upbringings, a lot from the people that we're surrounded by, our experiences. And there are a lot of people in this world that have different experiences and upbringings than us. And I hope that we can have more compassion towards one another. That's what I would like to see come out of this, because it's just watching this has brought more clarity and awareness to me. So if you haven't been watching yet, there's a lot of summaries you can find on YouTube about everything if you're curious. You can watch 5-minute summaries. You could watch the whole thing. It's like 8 hours long. It's kind of nuts. But I watched hours and hours and hours of this all, and it's so fascinating to me. Time was flying by. So with that said, I'm going to go back to watching the circus, and I'm sure I will have even more thoughts and feelings. So you may hear from me again very soon. Thank you for letting me talk about my opinions, share my feelings, get a little political. And as always, this is a conversation. As long as you're respectful. If you're not watching live, then you can leave a comment, and it will be addressed either probably indirectly by me through my wonderful assistant, Melissa, who helps me respond to everything. So I hope that those of you who have been watching a lot and commenting are happy that there's been more responses lately, because that's been a big priority for me. And as I said at the beginning of the video, don't forget to check out the giveaway. It's linked to you down below in the description. We're aiming, me and Melissa and I are aiming to have new giveaways every week. So there's lots of opportunities for you guys to win fun things, and just, it's part of my way of giving back to you and introducing you to new brands. There's usually discount codes if you don't win. Like right now, there's a vegan clothing line. So if you don't win, you can still get 15% off. And when you enter a giveaway, you're automatically entered to, well, not automatically entered. You're automatically will be notified when I have my next giveaway and any other things that are going on in this world. So that's it for now. Thanks again. And I will see you very soon. And it might be very soon, given that I'm spending a lot of time alone this weekend and feeling very charged up by everything happening in the world. Until next time, I'm wishing you all the very best with your own lives, your eco-vegan journey, and know that I'm here for you in all sorts of different ways, all these different ways that I can be. Know that you're not alone, and I'm always happy to listen. Bye.